Hello, my name is Gerson Torres, and today I'm going to be talking about a person that I believed impacted American society in a good and impactful way, and that is Mr. Graham or Billy Graham. So, why did I choose Billy Graham? So, the reason why I chose Billy Graham is before I always do research on a specific person, is I always ask myself, did this person act for change or did he wait till change happened? And Billy Graham did not wait till change happened, but he acted. And because of that, I believe, and that's the reason why I chose Mr. Graham, because he decided to act. So, before we get into the meat of discussion on how he changed American society, I want you to understand who he is, where he grew up, and what made him different. So, Graham was born on November 7th, 1918, grew up in North Carolina, actually born and raised. What made him different? Well, when he was born, the Great First War was over, but another problem was developing, and that was economical failure or the Great Depression. So, through his circumstance, he knew the idea of what it was to struggle. At age 15, he gave his life to Christ, and he wanted to change the world a step at a time. Fond commitment of a kid at age 15, huh? Well, that's how life is sometimes. You have the doers, and then you have the lazy people, and then Mr. Graham is a doer. So, Billy Start. Billy Graham was ordained in 1939 by a Penile Baptist Church that was pursuing a great future for the Lord. Billy Graham's first steps was one, being ordained. Number two, he went to school, wanted to study theology, wanted to understand the Bible even more. Three, he preached in his hometown for experience. He wanted to understand what it was to preach to the folk in America, to understand how they worked and what they needed. Number four is an important step because he went to Europe to talk to servicemen to understand what his calling was. Before he went, he asked a prayer and he asked the Lord, through this trip, I want to understand what I need to do, what you want me to do in America, what do you need me to do to change the hearts of men? And when he went to Europe, there's this one boy in particular that was hurt, that the doctor said he was going to be paralyzed forever. Billy went up to the young boy, he prayed for him, and then he gave his life to Christ. Through that, Billy knew what his calling was, and that was to become an evangelist throughout America. You can say, okay, these were like small steps, but his first major step was in 1949 in the great city of Los Angeles, which was called the Los Angeles Crusade. 35,000 people attended this big gathering, and you are going to ask me, Gerson, how the heck did he get 35,000 people in Los Angeles and people don't even know him? Well, number one, Billy Graham got great attention because he went to Europe in World War II. People gained his respect because of soldiers. You have the newspapers, you have the media. I'm going to talk about that more, but I wanted you to understand why so many people showed up to this event. And then you have 3,000 people gave their lives to Christ because of his message, and his message was on forgiveness. His message was to forgive those that hurt you, to turn your cheek when people slap you, to love your neighbor, pray for your enemies. This was an eye-opener for many people in America because they did the complete opposite, and they had a man that came into straight out of Europe, a war zone, and he's talking about loving your enemy. They're like, what? That makes no sense. But people decided to believe in a man of love and out of hate because they've experienced so much depression, they experienced so much loss, they experienced so much hatred that they wanted something to fill their gaps, to fill their hole in the heart. And Billy Graham and his God, Jesus, was doing that. So, calling part two, Graham's huge gathering led him success through the media. Oh, Gerson, when did you talk about media? I did when it happened in World War II. Well, same thing happened because this Los Angeles Crusade not only allowed him to go on ABC to preach his own messages, but also gain political figures like Ronald Reagan. Him and Ronald Reagan did amazing things. Mr. Graham, right there in that picture, was receiving a Welfare for Children award because he was helping children with welfare. So you have to understand that Graham, he preached about love, but also acted in love. You see, that's the idea that I'm talking about. Him and Ronald Reagan changed so many small things and made those aspects bigger. He helped welfare for children. He helped future presidents out in the future. He gave them advice. He told them not what to do, but he gave them advice through a Christian and loving way. And he did it by acting. But Billy Graham, like many Christians, wanted more. Even though Billy Graham was on the right side of the president, he decided that, you know what? Does the youth really want that? Do they? You know, a lot of people like old people with the president, but he said he needed to do more for the youth. So, how did he do it? He did it by one event, and it's called the Expo 72. The Expo 72 was a huge event because it impacted so many people. Now you're asking me, Gerson, how did he impacted so many people in this one event? How can one event do it? Well, if Jesus can feed 5,000, well, Billy Graham can change the whole youth in America by one event and by one candle. And what I mean by one candle, I'll explain it to you. When in the in Dallas, in the Cotton Bowl, Billy Graham told everyone in the stadium to go into their chairs to pick up their candle, and Billy Graham lit his, and he said, "It only takes one person to light a candle, and it only takes one person to change the world." And he said, "I can't do it on my own." He said, "God made disciples, plural, disciples." He didn't say he made a disciple, he said he made disciples. And he said there needs to be a movement within America of love and not hate, and there needs to be a movement of Jesus. So this idea created the Jesus movement, impacted throughout America. But an A man, Hank Irwin, took this movement very seriously and decided to go to a high school to become a chaplain and to change Woodlawn High School into love, not to hate. So you're asking me, Gerson, what's wrong with Woodlawn High School? The problem with Woodlawn High School is that there's this huge division of line between whites and blacks. It's called racism. So this idea of racism was just hurting the school so much that the school could shut down. But the solution was the football team. So Hank Irwin went up to the coach of Woodlawn football and told him, he's like, "Listen, your school's about to shut down. I know a God in heaven that can change this school, change your football team, but it starts with you." The coach said, "No, no, no, we can't do that." But through the persistence of Hank Irwin talked to the players for 1 hour, and through that 1 hour, the whole teammates gave their lives to Christ. But Gerson, like, okay, how did it change the whole school? So this boy on the right, the black, young African American named Tony Nathan, was a black superstar. Thought could never happen, but he did it. He did it through the help of his teammates because that division of racism was broken, but the idea of brotherhood was shown within the football team. Woodlawn was projected not even to win a football game, but they went to states. And because of the love the football team had with each other, they created prayer teams within the schools. They created clubs, they created Bible studies. And through that, it just changed not just the school, but it changed other schools. As you can see, Tony Nathan is giving a high five to 66, the QB to the Jets. And you tell me, Gerson, how is this happening? Well, it happened because a man named Billy Graham talked about love in the Expo 72. He talked about a candle willing to change, and it takes more than one person to change the world. You see, this basically concludes my whole presentation. See, Billy Graham impacted people directly and indirectly. He impacted directly by helping children in welfare. He impacted directly in in his teachings, but it also indirectly impacted them when the teachings were done, a man named Hank Earl into a high school and broke division in a whole city of Alabama, and it started with a boy named Tony Nathan who decided to love people not because of their skin but because of their characteristics. And that's what Billy Graham taught. That's what Billy Graham did. Billy Graham decided to love and not to hate. He decided to act and not wait till change acted, and he decided to share the love of Christ and to be strong. So, guys, thank you, Miss Hagler. Thank you, Mr. Raby, for listening to my presentation. I hope this presentation impacted you, and I hope you all have a great day.